I want to welcome you to Berkeley for those of you who haven't been here before. And if you haven't been on campus yet, I hope you take some time afterwards to cross the street over there and wander around, because it really is a beautiful campus. I'm Mara Hancock, and I'm the Interim Director for Educational Technology Services here at UC Berkeley. And it's really great to look around the hall here and see folks from Berkeley and our colleagues in the Opencast Project, and also folks here from other community source projects. So that's really the community that we want to be speaking to and to start bringing together. So for the program today, we're going to try to keep the formal program fairly brief. That's harder to do than you think, but we're going to try to keep it within 45 minutes to an hour. We'll be covering sort of the evolution and vision behind the UC Berkeley Webcast program and how that led us into re-architecting that system, and in the process of doing that, starting to think about ways that we wanted to think beyond the borders of UC Berkeley, and that's what led us to this idea of the Opencast Project. So we're going to start with, in that program, we're going to start with Christina Maslach, who is our Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, leading into Ben Hubbard, who's our Program Manager for our Webcast program, and Adam Hochman, some of you know, who's our Project Manager for our Webcast NG and Opencast project, and then myself to talk a little bit about the grant. So that's just to give you a heads up. We will do a QA afterwards. Q&A, we could do a QA if you want. We need to do a QA. We are going to do a Q&A here, but we'll also just continue it out. We have some food and wine and other drinks coming, and I hope that we'll continue the discussion out in the garden afterwards. Just to let you know, we will be webcasting. We are webcasting this and streaming it live, and then it will be posted on our blog. So if you have any issue with being seen or heard on the web, then you don't want to, I would hold my questions until we're out at the reception. Otherwise, please feel free to ask questions while we're here. And I also want to thank Ezra and John and Ilana, who are our webcast crew up there, for coming in and setting up and doing this today. So before I begin, I want to thank a few people, and I don't think they're all here, but since we're webcasting it, it will live on, and hopefully they'll see it. But first I want to thank Professor Larry Rowe, who really initially conceived of webcasting on the Berkeley campus, and not only did he conceive of it, he implemented it in his Berkeley Multimedia Research Center. And I want to thank Victor Edmonds, who was the Educational Technology Services Director for the past 10 years. And it was really his solid support and belief in the future of web-based video that kept this program going and allowed the webcast team to start to envision what would come next. And thanks to Obi Greenberg, who some of you may know through YouTube. He was really our original staff member who came over from the Resource Center and really took our webcast program through some real critical junctures, including reaching out to iTunes U and Google. And now, of course, he's at YouTube and envisioning educational video into the future and helping us all take that step forward. And last but not least, I want to thank the webcast team and all of our Opencast colleagues who really are the ones who are putting all of their creativity and dedication behind this. And of course, all of you who are out here who may not currently be part of the Opencast community, but we hope that you'll join up and help us to create this future. The planning grant has been funded partially by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. So their support's really helping us to start to form this kind of nascent community, and I hope that in the future it'll help us to come together to think about what this new system and infrastructure can be. So to start, I'd like to introduce Christina Maslach. Christina is a professor of psychology and our vice provost for undergraduate education, and she has an incredibly vast and long CV in her field of psychology that I'm not going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about really her role as our vice provost for undergraduate education. She's in that role, she's overseen and represented, and probably most importantly, been a champion for us in teaching and learning and educational technology. And in that, an outspoken advocate for the open educational resources and video movement. So I think that I can really say that she's a true believer that this kind of program is one that universities and especially public universities should be actively engaged in, and providing this content to the learners around the world is something that we can all feel very proud of. So please join me in welcoming Christina Maslach.
Well, thank you very much, Mara, and let me add my welcome to all of you to University of California here at Berkeley, and to this open house for the Opencast Project. As Mara said, this is one that has been generously funded, and we are very grateful for that, by the William and Flora Hewlett and Andrew Mellon Foundations. So although Opencast is a new project, it has really deep roots on the Berkeley campus when it emerged from a research project that Professor Larry Rowe's Berkeley Multimedia Research Center initiated in 1995. And I must say we've come a long, long way since then. At the time when he had that up, it was like 6 webcast courses a semester. We now have over 50 video and audio courses and over 300 hours a semester of special events. So the webcast program has really not just touched the heart, but really is sort of in some sense at the heart and soul of the university's core mission of education, of teaching and learning, and at the same time it really provides a window into Berkeley for the rest of the world. We are, as many of you know, but we like to tell people anyway, that we are the flagship school of the University of California. This is where the university system started. We are the first. This is why we are Cal as well as Berkeley. And so for us, the public mission of that institution is really very deep in our bones. And so supporting the dissemination, global dissemination of knowledge, and in doing so enriching the human experience to people all around the world, not just our own students who are here, but learners around the world, is really very, very important for us. The comments that we have been getting from people around the world has really been moving. It's been energizing, often inspirational, sometimes funny. And one that I think resonated for a lot of us when it came in was from an American soldier. And it arrived with the subject line, "Thank you from a grateful sailor in Iraq." And he was a member of a Navy counter-IED roadside task force. This means counter improvised explosive device task force. And he would describe what his life was like during the time that he was out trying to find and dismantle these devices. And he wrote to say and talk about one of our courses that Rich Miller teaches called Physics for Future Presidents. And he said those lectures have been a lifeline for me, and really talked about how much it meant to be able, when he was not doing the other work, to be able to tune in and learn all about this. So UC Berkeley events reveal the depth, the breadth of the Berkeley experience. We have some of the best minds in the arts, in science, in current events, coming to the Berkeley campus and also sharing that, and we're able to capture that and disseminate it. So this really highlights, I think, the diverse nature of intellectual engagement happening on the Berkeley campus, and we're really trying to make that, make everything that we do here as transparent as possible. So it became available, or has become available as a critical learning resource that can be integrated back into the curriculum and utilized for research. So now, in talking about it from the student perspective, we've really found that the Webcast program has been, for many students, a kind of a lifeline that many of them use. It began as a way for a single professor, Larry Rowe, to extend his lectures to his students, and in the process, beyond them, to the larger community, the larger world. Other professors quickly became interested in what they saw as the potential of this device and of this, technique, and to help their students, and coming to Larry and, asking for more and more help on this. In 2001, this is when we formed Educational Technology Services. And the program was moved, and with OBI came over from the BMRC to ETS, Educational Technology Services. And so we've been developing it ever since then. Learning in a large lecture is not always easy for our students, but what they find is that as they began to experience webcasts, and experience the ability to go back to lectures that were perhaps more challenging, to compare lectures given by other professors on the same topic, to be able to, match their notes to what it was that was going on in the class, began to realize how important webcasts were as a way to learn and to really master the material in the class. And in a way, it became a really important supplement to other methods they were using for studying. Among our students now, when I talk to them and say, what would you really like to see us do on the campus with regard to teaching and learning, more podcasts, more webcasts is probably the #1 request that we get. They want to have more access to more courses, not just the ones that they're taking, but others as well. So, they're really seeing ways in which this technology is really supporting the learning that is going on here at campus. So the Opencast Project is the natural next step for us here at UC Berkeley in our Webcast program. We've been cutting our community source teeth on the Sakai Project, the Fluid Project, now the Koali Student Project. So we're ready to look at how to leverage this experience towards the next generation in webcast systems. So the next speakers who are going to be coming up will have much experience in running the current program, working with their colleagues to define best practices and to develop a common vision for the future, which combines open source and open content worlds. So thank you very much for coming, and please join me in welcoming Ben Hubbard, who's going to share a little about the current webcast program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, welcome everyone. Just to get a sense, how many people here are here from out of the country? Wow, that's substantial and impressive. Thank you for coming so far to be here today. How many Berkeley faculty do we have in the audience today? Wonderful, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So as Mara and Christina said, I'm going to touch on some of the milestones of Webcast.Berkeley, the program, and kind of try and provide a context for why we've arrived at some of the decisions that we've made in terms of building our own next generation webcast system, as well as provide a context for what Opencast really means and why we're at that place where we're ready to launch into that project. So we'll just jump right in. Christina touched on the Berkeley Internet Broadcast System, which was Professor Larry Rowe's initial foray into the webcast world. He developed some scripts as part of the Berkeley Multimedia Research Center and implemented a webcast system that basically automatically captured video in the classrooms and broadcast it out to the world via the internet, and I think originally this was done as a method for providing a valuable study resource for students, and I think that has really held true through the years, that it definitely is a valuable study resource. And either by accident or on purpose, building authentication was never really a priority. Building an authentication layer for the content, for accessing the content, was never really a priority, so it was never implemented, and thus we kind of became an open program, and that's sort of our heritage. And I think as a public institution, it's a bit of a gift that Larry Rowe gave to us as a program, to the university, and to the larger higher ed community and the world. So thank you, Larry Rowe. As Christina mentioned also, we launched Webcast.Berkeley officially in 2001. We're part of the Division of Undergraduate Education and in Educational Technology Services. We've grown steadily. In our first year in 2001, I believe we captured 26 classes and broadcast those out to the world. Now we're up to about 86 courses a year, roughly, in both video and audio, I should say. In 2007, we did 137 events, actually, a little footnote there, that's not correct, but 137 events in 2007. So we've seen a lot of growth in terms of participation and in terms of the people calling for more content, more open content, more classes, more podcasts. So that's Webcast.Berkeley. In the early part of 2006, we actually implemented a new service for Webcast.Berkeley. It was audio podcasting. For the first time, we were actually able to offer our service of podcasting for free to faculty who wanted to participate. So this is a really exciting step for us to really leverage our service for the campus community, for our students, and for the world, and be able to capture more content. So we were pretty excited about that. It also allowed us to engage with Apple's iTunes U. We launched our UC Berkeley on iTunes U channel in April of 2006. Since then, we have added 5,000 course tracks and events tracks. We have about 4 million downloads. We just hit 4 million this semester. We're really excited about that. A lot of people are downloading our content, so it's pretty impressive. That's iTunes U. A couple months later, we began engaging with Google around a product that they have, a Google Video at the time. And we thought it was a natural next step for us to take not only our audio content in iTunes U, but also our video content and make it available on Google Video. We started out in September of 2006 with about 250 hours. Ultimately, we have about 1.6 million downloads and views and 800,000 downloads there. And shortly after we launched our Google Video partnership, they purchased YouTube. And so we started exploring YouTube as a potential way to get our video out to the world. And we were really excited to launch that in October of 2007. We're currently up to 840 hours of content available, a lot of courses, a lot of events going up. We have 13,700 subscribers to our main UC Berkeley channel. And we have about 3.2 million views overall so far. So we've been really excited about the people that we're reaching around the world, about leveraging these technologies to provide value for our students when they're trying to get out and review for their classes, and what's next. So I think in order to think about what's next, we really have to think about the trajectory of Webcast.Berkeley as a program and kind of what we've been doing in terms of participation. So I put together a few slides that show our course participation. So these are courses per semester that have decided to go ahead and participate in our class. And I want to just add that starting where you see the blue line there, that was when our podcast program launched. And we've been pretty much capped at the same number of rooms that have installed technology since then. So you can see that we really are seeing an increase in the desire to participate. I think it's partly driven by the students wanting more access to this content, and partly driven by our partnerships with iTunes U and YouTube providing more visibility for our program to the campus, generally speaking. I think the same is very true for events. You can see, again, here there's a trajectory for the number of events we're supporting, and you see a similar amount of people that are trying to access the events that we're actually webcasting. And we're really proud of the amount of work we're doing here and all the people wanting to participate with us. And it really leads us to the point of how do we deal with this program as we scale? As more and more faculty want to participate, as more and more events clients want us to webcast their video and audio content, as well as more and more campus partners who are producing their own content want to engage in the channels and the distribution partnerships that we have. And there are some really specific challenges. I'm going to speak mostly to the course casting challenges that we have. Primarily among them, I think, is the managing participants challenge. And it's really key because we have a course cast manager who spends a great deal of time in various systems, copying and pasting, and just doing tasks that just seem ridiculous when you really think about it. And we thought there's definitely a way that we can make that much more efficient. And all of these Adam is going to speak to in much more detail in a few minutes, so I'm just going to kind of go over them briefly. Also, we definitely want to expand the number of classrooms that we have installed technology in. And so reducing the cost of the equipment that we want to install was of great importance to us. Our standard installation package ran anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000, and the packages that we've sort of standardized upon now with the new system that we're deploying are much less expensive, under $2,000 per classroom. Also, there's the point of managing these distribution channels. So with increased visibility, there's come the pain of having to manage these multiple places where we put content and make ourselves visible. And we've been doing that in 3 steps, one for each channel. And we thought it would make a lot more sense if we could engage with our partners and the APIs that they've developed to actually do that in 1 step with the system that we developed. So Adam will touch on that later. And quality of service is a really big deal as well. And that goes across the whole program. I mean, it's the quality of the product that we're actually outputting, the quality of the uptime for our servers, and the things that the people want to see from our service. So we really felt like there were a lot of ways we could improve on what we've done already. And lastly, it's actually our second most requested feature of all time, I think. So Christina had mentioned earlier that the first most requested feature was more content. That's certainly true. The second most is to get rid of Reel. And I want to touch here on a second on engaging with proprietary technologies, and one of the founding principles of what we're trying to do here is leverage technologies and architectures that will allow us to be flexible in the future and not tie ourselves to these proprietary technologies. So we're actually blowing Reel away, and we're getting rid of the dinosaur in our program here, and we're pretty excited about what we're about to do here. So in fall 2008, we're really looking to streamline our capture and distribution services for courses and events. We're looking to expand our infrastructure over time. And we're also looking to deepen campus relationships with those groups on campus that are producing content outside of the services that we provide. Since we are a turnkey service, we do a lot of video production. We also recognize that there are experts in other areas on campus, and we want to provide access to these really great platforms and tools that we think that we're building and that will help them out. So this is kind of where we're at and what we're doing. Downloadable audio, downloadable video, RSS feeds for everything, delivery to YouTube, delivery to Webcast.Berkeley and iTunes U. And since I've told you kind of what we're doing, I'm going to turn it over to Adam, who's our project manager for Webcast.Berkeley and for the Opencast grant. And that's his formal title. I like to call him the person who kind of manages my vision and trying to keep me from going crazy, and also scope creep. So I'll turn it over to him to tell you how we're doing it.
Hello, everyone. So my presentation is going to touch on more of the details as to what our next generation system is going to cover in terms of features for our fall 2008 deployment. Just to emphasize, you see the Opencast logo in the background. Our system may be a foundational piece to the Opencast project, or may just be one component. So when I'm describing this system, this isn't the Opencast system, but this could be a significant part of it. So as Ben touched on, we're victims of our own success in a good way. There's a lot of people that like our content, and to meet that demand, in 2011, we're going to have 70 plus podcast capable rooms That means over 1,000 eligible courses. Of course, our program is by approval, so obviously not all faculty are going to choose to participate. But even half of these courses, if they chose to participate, that would be tens of thousands of lectures recorded a semester. Our current system, although it's gotten us, I have to give credit to our current system. It's gotten us through 7 years of a lot of growth, and it's certainly impressive in its own right. It was probably one of the first course lecture capture systems out there. But that being said, it is a patchwork quilt of technologies. We never anticipated podcasting, and at first it did streaming, and as everyone knows, this field changes tremendously week to week, month to month, year by year, and we didn't think about architecture for the long run. And so because of that, right now, operationally and technologically, we only can support 40 courses max. And so regardless, we struggled with having to turn some people away just because of operationally we couldn't handle it. But the benefit from that is that we do have 7 years of experience developing this type of infrastructure. So we like to think we know what we're doing, but as we've been engaging with the Opencast community, we're really humbled by the knowledge that's also out there. There's an amazing people that have been doing this for a long time, and we're very excited about that. But we thought, okay, we have 7 years of experience, and there's something called leveraging emerging technologies like FFmpeg and Podcast Producer. We saw that Podcast Producer did something that our old system we always struggled with, the workflow piece and the capturing piece remotely in classrooms. That always had been a pain point for us. So we decided, because we've been doing this for a long time, we want to build a new system. We also, I did an analysis of the existing systems out there about 1.5 years ago, and we found that the systems were either expensive, inflexible, and frankly, we just don't have time to pilot every single system that's out there. There's so many out there, and to really do it right and to pilot a system and understand how that works for your campus and your policies, it's expensive to do that, and we felt like it would be better for us to build in-house. And we also recognize that we have this wonderful learning management system called BSpace that really has solved a lot of the hooks into the enterprise information systems on campus, like our registrar, our authentication authorization, our user directory services. So there's this sort of one-stop shop, so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel and grab all this stuff and make a scalable system. We could actually tap into one of the frameworks that already exists on our campus. So I'm going to touch on what Ben had mentioned, participation management. One of the key factors for our new system is we want to lower the barriers of participation. We're investing a lot of resources and blood, sweat, and tears into getting more podcasts to occur, but we want to have the faculty be able to approve and participate as easily as possible. So we're going to actually have an online form that's going to be available within their learning management worksite. So when they log on, it'll actually say, hey, you have some courses, would you like to participate in our program? So they know that this wonderful resource is actually available on their campus. Also, the participation management piece, it decreases overhead for communication, room scheduling, and policy enforcement. For example, with communication, our course manager presently needs to build this enormous spreadsheet of all the contacts, who's doing what course, where are they doing it, and day by day that information changes in the registrar. So our system is actually taking account for that, and it's syncing with the registrar system to make sure that if courses change or are canceled, if instructors change courses, if they go into an enabled room or leave a room that has the podcast capability, they're notified automatically so that they know that this resource exists and that they can take advantage of it. As room scheduling goes, our course manager has to look at this website, it's called schedule.berkeley.edu, and refresh it every day and see what's changed. So obviously, that's not a sustainable process. And we also have a policy enforcement. We want to make sure that faculty understand that it's their choice to capture their courses. And we want to be able to ensure that we're not just going to capture a course if we don't get explicit approval by the faculty. And one last thing, one of the neat features about our new system in terms of the participation management component is that you can track instructor responses to gauge user participation. So over time, you can go back from semester to semester and see, oh, it's actually increased by such and such, and these people decided that they didn't want to participate this year, but they decided they wanted to participate the following year. Or wow, the English programs really increased their podcast usage. Maybe we can focus instructional designers on doing something innovative around podcasting. So there's just a lot of opportunity to learn about the usage on your campus and also provide feedback to your sponsors that, yes, people are using this resource that we've invested in, or we need to do more to increase participation. So here's an example of our approval form. This would show up on a faculty's website on their learning management system. It's just really simple. You just choose capabilities, make sure they read it, and just basically say, yes, I want to do this, or no, I don't. And here's an example, sort of a bird's eye view of what the participation management component looks like. It's actually running within our learning management system. To get a closer look, as I mentioned before, all this information is being fed automatically from the registrar and synced every day, and all the response and the capture types that the users have chosen are being reflected real time within a dashboard. And the tools up above actually allow you to view who needs an invitation, who recently got scheduled into a room, who's responded, who's undecided. Maybe you should talk to those people and try to gain an understanding as to what their worries are for participating, and who was invited but didn't respond. And that really gauges, like, wow, maybe 30% of the people that we're inviting aren't getting the message. What can we do to improve that? And also to the right, there's the publication status, which we do have that payment aspect to our program. So this ensures that for video, people are actually paying before we go out and capture their courses. Whereas if it meets all the criteria, it's just ready to publish. And as the semester starts, it'll automatically engage with all the distribution channels, create the necessary spaces and so forth. So we've always been capturing stuff, even with our old system. But one thing we're continuing to do and doing it better is that our approach, there's no disruption to the faculty's style of teaching. All they need to do is put a mic on their lapel, and that's it. We automatically start and stop the classes. They don't need to hit a red button or a green button, and they like that. I don't know if that's the case at other campuses, but they don't need to worry about whether they're being recorded, and it doesn't impact their lecture. Also, real-time monitoring of processes. There's many different jobs that are taking place within the life cycle of media as it's captured all the way to distribution. And with our new system, we know real time at every single step what's happening within the system. Did it capture successfully? Did it encode a preview file successfully? Did it brand successfully? Et cetera, et cetera. And it's really wonderful that we have that now, because in the past, our old system didn't have that kind of monitoring mechanism, and we'd actually find encoders down for a couple of days that could have been fixed, and we weren't able to be as proactive as we wanted to be. And just a note here, the instructors teaching in the classroom and through VGA and video and audio inputs, we're going to be able to capture any formulas taken down on a document camera, anything being fed from the projector, obviously an audio feed and any video feeds. So here's an example, and it's in a crude form of what our dashboard's going to look like, our monitoring dashboard. I think anyone in this room who's done software development, this is currently like where we're at in terms of this week, and next week it's going to look prettier, and as we iterate, it's going to look even better. But it kind of gives you a rough idea as all the various steps that are happening within the life cycle of one recording. And as you notice, we don't live in a perfect world, and a capture failed. And so, so the benefit is that we know that immediately. And when everything falls apart, we actually get emails left and right, and all the necessary people are contacted. So yeah, our network goes down sometimes, and we can contact IST to say, hey, can you work on this? Or a job failed, what happened? So we're constantly getting feedback from the system and letting us know what we need to do. As flexibility goes, our system supports automation and as well as manual submission of content. So you can have an automated lecture, or you can just go out in the field and capture it yourself and submit it to a particular lecture. It doesn't have, it's either or. We also have special events, so you can schedule a special event, and if it happens to be in a capable room, you can use the automated feature of that room, or you can manually capture it yourself and submit it to the system. As Ben touched on, we're also doing screencasts now. Before we either did audio and video, but the majority of the rooms we're scaling are going to also have screencast. So screencast is a wonderful technology if you're unfamiliar with it, where it basically captures anything taken from the VGA feed. So, well, that's our interpretation of screencast, but it's got a much more orthodox meaning. But the benefit is that students can easily view the presentation along with the video, with the audio, and at no cost currently. So now they have that video feedback as well, and more courses can now participate because of that. You also can choose some, all, or no distribution. As Ben pointed out, we do YouTube, we do iTunes U, we do our own local distribution channel, Webcast.Berkeley. You could say, I only want to go to Webcast.Berkeley, I want to go to YouTube only, I want to go to iTunes, or all of the above. So there's some flexibility there. It's not a draconian process. And essentially, this leads for more options for our partners. We recognize on campus that there are a lot of people interested in our system outside of courses and events. And since we're building this wonderful infrastructure, we'd like them to be able to tap into that resource as well. So we may have extended roles that take advantage of our system. And here's an example of the event details page. As you can see, you can choose whether it be automated or not, change capture start times or end times, change the capture type. You can change distribution channels and so forth. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And on the distribution, as Ben touched on, we're doing automated publishing. All the metadata is being fed from our registrar. So you don't have to do any kind of onerous cut and paste. It all is annotated for each of the media files, and it's all sent out. As iTunes U courses go, the spaces for a course are automatically generated, and all the metadata associated with that course is happening behind the scenes. So there's no manual process going on. For fall 2008, we're hoping to do YouTube courses. Likely that's going to be on the table. I talk like a project manager, if you guys don't notice. Webcast.berkeley.edu, so we're going to be supporting full automation for both events and courses to Webcast.Berkeley. That's our main distribution channel again, and that's actually primarily where our students get their content, interestingly enough. And iTunes U courses. So those are the three things we're tackling for phase 1 of our project. And to touch on branding audio and video, it is a very time-intensive process. And for our release, we're going to actually have that be fully automated. So any kind of metadata will automatically be infused into the slide title, and we're also going to have intros and outros both for audio and for video. In fact, we're going to use Apple's text-to-speech functionality for the audio part, so someone doesn't have to obviously record their own voice for each course. And there's just a happy guy with the RSS feed too, so people are pleased with that. So just to give a very high-level overview of our system, and in terms of getting into technical detail, you'll certainly have an opportunity to do this afterwards if you like. But basically our Berkeley Next Generation system is essentially an admin component, and it's also composed of a tasker and scheduler. So the admin component basically manages all the metadata and all the and all the workflows that need to take place within a given day. The tasker and the scheduler interpret that information and are sort of a broker that go out and say, okay, start here, stop here, send out distribution here. It's sort of the worker bee. And we have these framework services on top of our application that essentially decouple us from Sakai. I mean, although we love Sakai, our system also runs in a very basic fashion standalone, because we understand that we're sort of looking forward that if other people were to participate and want to use our software rather than it be a boutique app, they wouldn't want a system that's so tightly integrated with Sakai. So these framework services talk to the authenticity, user directory services, and the registrar information, but they do it in a loosely coupled way. But it still very much works within Sakai. And so, for example, and also the tasker and scheduler currently talk to Podcast Producer. We have done some abstraction already, because all of that information is being sent via REST messages and posts, and also we're using iCal as a messaging protocol. So in some ways we've already done a step to abstraction. But in the future, our grand vision, if this were to be an Opencast project, is the framework services would be a lot more sophisticated, so that institutions could actually tap into those services and create whatever they want. If they don't want our participation management component, they can make their own. But at least we'd be talking to a common language. And the benefit is that you could also build pedagogically relevant tools around the video as well, and people within your institution could potentially take part in those services with their own applications. So that would be the idea, and so that instead of Sakai, you could potentially have Moodle as your LMS, or whatever you want. I mean, there's a lot of systems out there, a lot of people are using different things. And we recognize that although we love Podcast Producer and we like Apple products, that just to hedge our bets and ensure that IT is a risky environment, things change, that we're not totally tied to a vendor solution. So we'd like to have that flexibility to treating it almost like this media processing capture and media processing capture and distribution agent, where basically it's a black box where the system can talk to whatever systems providing the capture and the distribution facilities. And for example, this is a replays icon. ETH Zurich has created infrastructure that's similar to Podcast Producer that's completely open source. So that's something we're identifying as potentially tapping into their system as a first step for trying to abstract the admin component from Podcast Producer. And of course, it could be anything. There's a lot of other stuff out there. And just to touch on again, that we like to have a common ecosystem, shared APIs, shared components, and also potentially shared infrastructure, people using the same infrastructure on campus for their own applications, as well as potentially sharing infrastructure across institutions. A lot of schools are Internet 2 schools. There's a really large pipe between them. There may not be any, there might be a reason out there to have central transcoding services for several institutions, or have people collectively decide that they want to throw in a bunch of money for captioning and then be able to get a better price. So those are some of the interesting ways in which institutions could potentially collaborate. So I'm going to now move on to Mara, and she'll talk a little bit more about the Opencast initiative.
So you've heard a little bit about our evolution. You've heard a little bit about our technology and our vision around our technology. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of more the warm and fuzzy stuff, which is about how we come together to do the work we do and do it in a community fashion. So the Opencast project is primarily something that started to come into shape as we started to look at architecting our next generation system. And it came partly from our experience in working on the Sakai project and being part of that community source effort early on. and also our work in the Fluid Project, which is a community source user experience project. So we started to let some of the questions and values that came from those communities formulate some thinking and questions that we pose to ourselves. So given what Christina said about the number one request from students is more, and given that we were challenged by our own ability to scale our tool set, and given that we were hearing from many of our colleagues all over the world that they were facing the same issues, we asked ourselves, how can we do more? How can we do it better quality? And how can we do it for less? And obviously that's less per unit because the more units go up. But that question is something that we don't think we can answer fully by ourselves, because it's really a sustainability question that we all face, and it's partly organizational. So we have some benefits based on the way our organization is structured that, say, Stanford or Australian National or Columbia might not be able to mirror. So we needed to look out beyond our own structure and our own competencies at what other people are doing and how they're doing it, and then start to think about some of the best practices around that. So then taking the values also of our open content. How can we make access to this content easier to find, easier to consume in whatever media or device that you want to, whenever you want to, wherever you want to. Obviously we were latched onto Real, and again, that's a situation that I think is better solved, or an issue that's better solved altogether. How can we make the context and the experience around this content richer? We have been serving this content up for a long time, and we hear from our students that it is incredibly valuable for them in their studying. In fact, we've watched them study with it, and we know it works. But what we started to hear fairly recently from student stakeholders was, we want this in the context of our learning. And we've been hearing it from the public, which is, oh, it's great to have this video, but what about those lecture notes? How can I really learn without understanding the whole context? And how can I really engage with this? As we watch students use it, they've developed their own techniques of hopping back and forth between their handwritten notes and the lecture. So we started to think about that and develop a vision about what that might look like. But meanwhile, we're also looking at developing this whole infrastructure. We can't do both of those things at the same time. We don't have enough staff to do that. And we know that other people have solved some of these issues. We looked out at Columbia. We looked out at some other folks like Penn State. They're doing really interesting things, pedagogical things with content. So if we can start to come together, maybe we can actually reach that end point sooner rather than later. And then how can we leverage that existing innovation and delivering platforms? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's no reason. We don't feel any stake in the ground or territory around that. It all has to come out of UC Berkeley or out of a single community source effort. This is really something where we need to think about coming together and being smart about what we do and how we spend our money and resources. So again, we thought the value of open source coming together with the values in open content really made a lot of sense. And that's what took us to talking with Hewlett Foundation and the Mellon Foundation about ways that we could really start to move this forward so that we could really lower the cost of creating and hosting a scalable and robust online media infrastructure. And then opening the doors to this really vast archive of curriculum, and really looking at not just the sciences. Ben mentioned we started over here with the sciences and the computer, folks, and that was easy for them to accept. But really, how do we bring the arts and humanities in? When we started doing podcasting, just the fact that we weren't charging for that cost, that we could leverage the existing system, that we didn't have people out in the classrooms to support that, brought in the arts and humanities. So we saw all of a sudden we jumped up to like 30% of our podcasts and webcasts were arts and humanities. And we want to see that increase because we know that that content is the content that people really want to learn about. And some of the most popular stuff on iTunes U has been the arts and humanities content. And not only do we want to provide that to the world, we want to enable the learners around the world to access it from wherever and however they need to and engage with it and share it. So what is Opencast? First and foremost, Opencast is a community. It's a bunch of folks from higher education and various organizations around the world who are interested in this, coming together to explore, define, and share these podcasting best practices and technologies. So that's the easy part. Right now we have over 215 distinct organizations that are on the listserv or participating in some way, and we've got over 350 individual participants. It's also a project, and that's really where a lot of the most recent activity is coming in, and that's where this open house comes in. And that's the bringing together in a very active way the community to start documenting best practices, disseminating them, developing case studies so that we can all learn from each other in a more systemic and scalable way, and define what those user requirements are, not just our requirements, but the user requirements for capturing, processing, archiving, distribution, and also that effective use of podcasting for teaching and learning. So our work plan, here I'm channeling our friend Adam over here. We have several working meetings planned, and we really launched this even before we got the planning grant from Hewlett and Mellon back in October. Apple very graciously sponsored an initial meeting with, I think there was, how many, nine institutions, to come together down in Cupertino and really start this work. And that was us thinking that this is something that's really valuable, and let's see how it goes. And it went really quite well. We learned so much from each other, and there was a lot of excitement generated, and that's what led us into writing the proposal for the next step. Last week we had our second workshop here in Berkeley that had 10 institutions here to go through it, and we went through it. We learned a lot in our first one, and we went through things and tried to get to a slightly deeper level. And then next month we're going to be at Oxford. There are a number of institutions from from Europe and that are doing really interesting things, and so we wanted to go to where they are and make it a little bit easier, and we'll be conducting that there. And then in September, the organizations that are really interested in taking a next step and exploring a lot of what it's going to take to really do this together are going to come together here at Berkeley again to do what we're calling a project deep dive. And then continuing on, we're going to continue our documentation, our case study writing, and hopefully that will lead to our next step proposal for Mellon and Hewlett. People who are contributing to the workshops, there's about 25 different institutions contributing. And these folks come from a really wide range of perspectives, expertise, and also tool sets. So you have folks like Australian National University who are doing some really interesting things with broadcast capture and dissemination. You have Case Western, which has developed its own homegrown system that's integrated with their homegrown LMS. That's very exciting and provides some rich models there. ETH Zurich, which Adam mentioned, they've got this really very vast framework that we're looking at, which is quite exciting. And Columbia and other folks who are dealing more with the pedagogical side. So this is that issue that we're trying to look for the whole picture, the whole ecosystem. We don't want people who are just thinking about development. Some of these folks haven't implemented a podcasting system on their campus, and they need to be here because we need to know that whatever we develop is going to work for somebody in some institution that needs to just think about adoption, not necessarily development. So some of the outcomes for this project, we're going to produce a roadmap, a set of requirements for what it's going to take to fund, develop, and sustain this framework. We're going to document and share the best practices, and then we're going to come out with a proposal for community source effort. So just to end on a little rah-rah here. The Opencast initiative is really driven by higher education, and it's looking to empower institutions to make more informed choices about capture, processing, and distribution infrastructure. We're looking to really help faculty to teach their courses and share knowledge with their students and learners worldwide without the technology getting in the way. We want to help students access and shape this media into more meaningful tools for learning. And we want everyone to easily find and engage with this educational video, audio, and other rich media from instructors and institutions around the world. So you can follow the Opencast project by following our blog. Things will be going up fairly rapidly. We have a researcher and writer who's joined us this week who will be helping to take all of this incredible information and get it up there for you to use. And if you're interested in participating, people are coming on, and also all of our colleagues who are in the project are adding to the blog and making it richer as well. So from here, I'm going to open it up for questions, and then we can head outside. So does anyone have questions for any of us? Back there.
I had a question about how media gets aged out when it becomes not relevant anymore, or the body of knowledge has moved on.
I'll take a stab at that, and if anyone wants to add anything, they should feel free. Right now, we haven't been aging it out. We haven't been archiving it. It's all available, and in fact, we have a lot of statistics that show that students and learners are going back and looking across a number of different years to even view the same lectures. So, and we've heard from students who say, if I didn't understand Professor X, I go back and look at Professor's Y webcast from 3 years ago, and that helps me to understand that concept more fully. Moving forward, we have to sort of think about what our archiving policy is. If you talk to Tobias from ETH Zurich, he'll tell you, don't think about archiving, just make it more available. And I think we need to think about what that process is. We've also talked to the Internet Archive about ideas about how we might roll our content to them for longevity. We've talked to the CDL about some of that, but we don't really have a good solution. In fact, when you talk to the librarians about it, they often say, oh, good question. So it's something that we do definitely want to talk about as a group. In fact, it came up both from a policy perspective in the last meetings and from a technological perspective. So I think it's one of the things we want to be looking at is defining what is the best practice. You also have this.
I'm Hal Meeks from North Carolina State University, and we also have a classroom capture environment. We've deployed for what now, like 2 years now, and the question that we're having to tackle the same problem that I'm going to ask you about. I was noticing in some of your workflow stuff that was absent was Section 508 compliance, and I'm just curious to see what is your vision in terms of how you're going to handle this on a broad scope basis, not a case by case basis.
Right, Adam, do you want to talk about what you did today?
Oh, yes. Hello. Hello. I don't know how to use our own technology, so I leave that to the AV people. Hold on a second. Okay. So in terms of accessibility and compliance, it's, as most people in this room probably have encountered, it's a wide array. It's a very broad continuum. And in terms of what we're creating for our application from a UI standpoint, the only thing that touches hundreds of users in terms of the public on campus is the approval form. So we actually meet with the accessibility group on campus and have them vet through our application and give us feedback as to, from the standpoint of interacting with application online, what needs to happen in order for it to be more accessible. From a media standpoint, I think that we encounter the same problems as every institution has, that it's just expensive to caption content, and there's really no silver bullet out there to do that. Where, as of right now, we don't, in terms of policy, my understanding is that on an as-needed basis, we actually do offer captioning to the public or our students. And there is actually funding being provided by the university for that. Obviously, ideally in the future, we'd like to caption everything for not only accessibility, but it adds a whole other rich layer of interactivity with the media. So we're looking at technologies out there. We're engaging with people. Had spoken to MIT briefly about their lecture browser project. And that's just one of the prime examples of what this community and project could be. There could be either a commercial vendor or an institution out there that's doing really amazing things with this and brings that to the table and says, this is our policy, this is our approach, this is our technology, and we'd like to share this with everybody. But we certainly don't have the answer right now, that we do our best.
One of the interesting things that came up in our workshop last week was the realization that some of the accessibility issues are really very particular to North America. And so as we look at this, we'll need to, in terms of compliance, I should say, they're worldwide in terms of being issues, yes. And so we need to really think about how we're going to approach it. The people who are going to be driven the most are the North American schools. Kevin from AST here is one of our partners at Berkeley for getting our captioned webcast up. And we are really hoping that part of this process can start to establish a better way of doing this and a more cost-effective way of doing it. It may be simply being, looking at how we go in and do more bulk kind of buying of captioning and transcription. It may be a crowdsourcing kind of methodology. But the other group that we're looking at bringing in, who's going to come in September, is the ATRC from University of Toronto, who really are kind of worldwide experts in accessibility. And we're hoping that they can help us start to really address this issue. But it's partly a policy issue based on your campus, and so what we want to do is make sure the system can be enabled to do that. And then it's an issue of how we start to get the right tools in place, and that has to be driven from all of us and from the industry that's doing a lot of research on this.
And just to add to what Mara is saying, we have a local distribution channel, webcast.berkeley.edu, and at least from an accessibility standpoint, in terms of the website that we offer the content on, we ensure that it is accessible. And that's one of the benefits of us hosting our own site, is that we can make those changes quickly and offer those services to our audience.
It's Michael Neville calling from University of Western Australia. A lot of the folks in Australia are using a proprietary product and have been for a number of years and are having some level of success with that. Are you willing under this project to engage with those sorts of people from a policy and practices basis rather than a technology basis, or are you assuming that people who are coming on board are actually going to use the technology?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, no, we want this to be a very wide community. And in fact, I think that to really think about it in a sustainable way, you need to think about how you engage those businesses to build a really strong, also a business model around the open source work that we're doing. And if we can kind of help to put pressure on the industry to think a little bit more openly, that's a good thing. And also, if they can come in and provide technological support, both for the system, but also for anybody who's doing this. We definitely don't want to think about kind of an us and them situation between commercial enterprise and open source, nor between our colleagues who are choosing to use vendor systems and those choosing to use open source.
But we are open to anyone QAing our system if you're interested.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Other questions? No? Okay, so please join us outside for some food and drink, and please feel free to ask any of us questions. And perhaps folks who are involved in the Opencast project, who've been part of a workshop, make sure when you talk to people, you let people know that you've been part of it and you have that knowledge so they can ask you questions as well. It doesn't all have to be Berkeley. Thanks.